Okay, so I'm going to show you how to use value using oil pastels right now. If you remember in class, I showed you really briefly, or Mr. Bokeh would have showed you briefly, how to use oil pastels. And the one thing that I really want you to remember when it comes to oil pastels is to layer your value, starting with dark and working up to your light. And if you remember to layer your value, no matter what you're working on, whether it's oil pastels or acrylic paint or colored pencil or pastels, you will really be successful. So I'm going to start off by showing you the value scale that I did yesterday. And it's a very simple, kind of messy value scale. Remember that you don't want to see your paper at all when you use oil pastels. The same way applies to a lot of material. You're going to get a more successful, more rich, more dark drawing if you remember not to see the paper. Now I know that you're using clear bottles, but just because you're using clear bottles doesn't mean you should be able to see through your material. It just means that you should apply more white to it. So, and I will show you some examples of Janet Fish a little bit later to show you how she handles clear bottles. So let's start off by remembering that you have your oil pastels and you can blend with your fingers, but I don't blend with my fingers. It is just not the way that I roll because I don't like oil pastels on my hands. So I'm going to start off by getting my very dark value. And getting a black is super easy because you can just go over it a lot. Okay, you can press hard or go over it. Those are two ways that you can build your value, by pressing hard or going over things again and again to get a darker, richer value. So I have my black here, right? And then I'll have my white down here, which you probably can't see, but you'd be able to see it because of the oily texture to it. Okay, you can actually see it right there. Then we want to get those midtones. So again, you just press a little bit less or go over it more like I'm doing. I'm pressing less and then going over it to get those richer values. Now I'm pressing less and less and less and less and less and less. Because talking quieter means that you press less. Okay. So now I have a range of color. Now this is a good value range, except it's not rich and it's not full, and I can see the paper through it, correct? So I could blend a little bit with my fingers if I wanted to get it a little bit lighter, but like I told you, I don't like to do that. So, and you don't want to use your blending tool because it'll just muddy them up. So now I'm going to use my white as my blending tool, and that's what you got to remember. You use your white as your blending tool. I go through 5 times more white than I do any other color, and I'm not exaggerating. Blend, blend, and it's okay to see those streaky values in there. I don't mind seeing that. Kind of adds to it just a little bit. That's the way, if you want to get rid of those streaky values, then when you apply your black, blend with your finger. And then go over it with your white, because I don't want to see this fuzziness. Remember, fuzzy equals messy. And you'll get more of a blended value. Okay, now if I'm going to apply it to my area, here's my drawing. Okay, I've broken this up into 7 sections. You guys started out with colored pencil, pencil. I'm not going to use my pencil right now. I'm going to go in and I'm going to do my oil pastels. So I'm going to go in with my dark values, which I'm going to pick this one for my oil pastel. And I know that this is dark because I have a dark line. I'm not looking at my still life. I'm not even near where I set for my still life. And now I'm going to go in, and I know that these are highlights and this is a shadow, so I'm going to apply some value in here. I want this to be a little darker. Then I'm going to apply a little value here. And by layering my value within here, I'm going to get my 5 different areas. Within just this area, I'm not even having to do my shadow yet. So now I'll blend this. Now remember, I did not clean my oil pastel before I started this, which I probably should have. You want to clean your oil pastel if you don't want that black on there, which is probably a really good idea, but I didn't do it because I wanted to dive right into the adding value. Okay, so now I have my oil pastel area. Notice that I went in and I made sure to follow the contour. I went straight across because I wanted this bottom part to look flat. So you have to pay really close attention to how you apply and the direction you apply your values in. Because if you don't, you can either flatten something or you can make it look distorted because you will get the lines and the streaks from the way that you apply your oil pastels. So notice that not a single part of this whole area has any paper showing. It is all covered with oil pastel. I went back in, darkened up areas, lightened up areas. What you see on your screen right now is a little bit darker than the actual drawing itself, so you might want to check that out on the board. But that is how you do oil pastels.